Today we're here with Coach Paul Corsaro, the head coach at the University of Indianapolis. Coach is an alumni of UIndy, and he previously served as an assistant coach for the Greyhounds for 6 seasons prior to spending the last 2 years in the same capacity at Purdue Fort Wayne. Today, Coach's topic is a basketball buffet of topics. So we're going to do a Q&A and ask him some questions. And coaches, at any time you have questions, be sure to chime in. But Coach Corsaro, thanks for being here today.
Oh, thanks a lot for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
And first off, congrats on your new position. Sure, it's pretty exciting to come back to the school that you played for.
Oh, absolutely. And congrats to you on your new position as well. I'm excited for you. It's a dream come true for me, a place that I played basketball and football at, and, have 2 degrees from undergrad and grad school. From the city of Indianapolis, went to Roncalli High School. So coming back home to my roots, it's, something that I always wanted. Wasn't sure if the opportunity was going to present itself, but when it did, and jumped on it. And like I said, I'm thrilled. I've been having a blast.
Well, great. As you touched on there, you said not only were you a basketball player, but you were also a football player at UIndy. So how challenging was it to be a 2-sport athlete, and also how rewarding was that experience?
It was very challenging, but then, also you take academics in there too. And I was always someone that prided myself on doing well in the classroom. So you balance it all 3 out. I was very busy. Time management was important. But I think it's prepared me more for later in life. I never really had an off season. If you think about, football season, I'd go all the way through, and I usually miss our exhibition games. And then I'd jump right in like the first or second regular season game. I'd still get, 27, 28 games of basketball in, and, play that season out. And then as soon as that's over, you're right into spring football. And then when spring football is over, you're doing open gyms and getting a lot of shots up on the gum with the basketball team. And, I'd lift and do 7-on-7 football teams. So I was, working out 4 or 5 hours a day, doing a little bit of both. So, my body hates me now because I got neck, back, knee. I got everything from the wear and tear. But in terms of the time management and learning how to stay busy, but still trying to excel in all aspects while busy, I think has prepared me more for life today. But I wouldn't trade the experience for the world. I loved it. I never felt like it was a burden. It was exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure you've learned so much from playing both sports. And in addition to playing college ball in Indianapolis, you mentioned that you also played at Roncalli High School in Indianapolis. We at Feel for the Game, the guys on this call today, we're a little biased about this state, but can you explain how special it is to play high school basketball in Indiana?
Oh, I tell people all the time that don't know what it's like. These kids already have like a college experience, by the time they get into college, if they do play college basketball. The atmospheres and the passion behind the game. I remember some of the gyms I was fortunate enough to play in, and some of the biggest. I remember we played at Richmond when they had Dominic James, and that place was sold out. I remember he dunks it, called oop at the buzzer to beat us. We were 54-52, and he had. We held him to 34 that night. He had 49 and 51 the previous 2 games. But we held him to 34. But then, you also talk. I remember my sophomore year, we were fortunate enough to make it to semi-state, and we lost to Luke Zeller, the game before he hit that famous half-court shot to win the state title. But on the way there, our regional was in Newcastle, and we won the morning game. We're playing in the evening game against Newcastle when they had Zach Hahn and Chase DeGaulle. So that was sold out. The biggest high school gym in the world sold out in a regional championship game. They said at the time, I'm sure it's changed since then, it was the largest crowd they had since Steve Alford played in that game. And it was electric, and we won. It was awesome. And and then the next year we go back and we play them in the morning game in regionals, and I'd probably 2,000 less. It wasn't quite the crowd, but it was probably 95% full. And we're tied up 63-63. Hahn dribbles off his foot with 5 seconds to go, and it rolls to Chase DeGaulle in the corner, and he just gets a wide open 3 and cans it at the buzzer and wins. It was a fluke thing. So we got them back-to-back years. But then back that first year when we go to regional or semi-state against Washington at Seymour. It's the third largest gym in the state, and that's sold out. They were turning people away at the door. I mean, felt like I was in the movie Hoosiers, but I wouldn't trade those memories and experiences for the world. And then I got to witness it on the women's side. My sister was a heck of a player. She's playing out at UCLA right now. I remember they're playing Bedford North Lawrence at Bedford North Lawrence in the semi-state game, and how it's women's basketball sold out. You know what I mean? Like, David Bailey was the coach on the other team. You just can't beat it. And unless you've experienced it, you really don't know.
Now, that's a great way to put it. Unless you've experienced it, you really don't know. And we're definitely biased for sure. You had some awesome experiences at Roncalli, and kind of transitioning into how you got here. Coach Stan Gerard left to take the job at Southern Indiana, my alma mater, and a guy that I used to watch growing up.
You're a Screaming Eagle?
I'm a Screaming Eagle. Don't hold that against me.
Man, I wouldn't have done this if you would have told me that. So it's a good thing you're telling me now.
Good thing we got you on. But yeah, I grew up as a kid watching Coach Gerard play, and of course he was an All-American, National Player of the Year, and they won a national title. But not only did you play for Coach Gerard, but you also coached alongside him. What have you learned from Coach that will prepare you for this next step of your journey?
One thing that he always did, whatever decision he made, whether it was on the court, off the court, he always acted with integrity. So that's one thing I'll always take away. And at the end of the day, whatever you do, it has to be in the best interest of your student athletes, and the relationships you form with them, A, is more important than the wins and the losses and helping them out. But B, it's going to actually help with the wins and the losses too. So, relationships are everything, how you treat other people, and making, decisions of integrity in everything you do.
So, touching on building relationships, if there's one thing that we've all learned during this quarantine, I think we could all agree is it's all about building relationships. So in a time where you've not been able to work with your players and actually have them on campus, how have you really tried to improve these relationships?
I don't go a week without talking to every one of my guys individually on the phone, usually twice, 2-3 times a week, and we take texts, but I physically actually have phone conversations with them once or twice a week, each guy. By the time I start text conversations, I've talked to them each 3 or 4 times a week. But we've done a lot of team Zooms. We've done individual Zooms. I remember when I got the job, first thing I did, I had a team Zoom. I got the job at 4:00 on a Friday. I had a team Zoom at 5, literally an hour later. I set it up and kind of I already had it listed out, kind of what my initial team meeting would be, first team meeting. And I did it right there. And then the next 2 days, that Saturday and Sunday, what I did is every returner, or, in college basketball, it's a little different with the transfer market, guys that were on the fence, what I did was I did an individual Zoom with them and their parents all on one call. They all 3 of them sitting right by each other over the next 2 days, about 60 to 90 minutes apiece, just getting to know each other. And then from there, we've done a lot of team Zooms. We have a fun team building activity this week. I'm looking forward to. We've kind of done a Sunday Zoom, like a weekly Sunday Zoom. And every week's been different. I've also done where I'm trying to connect with the past with the present with our program, because we have a real rich history where if you're an alum and you played pro or currently play pro, it's kind of like the criteria. We've had a lot of good alums, so I'm trying to kind of limit it. I bring one back for about 10 minutes in each Zoom. I introduce them. They tell their story, why they were successful at UIndy, how to get to where they're at right now, because most of our guys want that opportunity. And then I open it up for questions. I think that's a cool way just for our guys to know who came before them, and then guys, as they follow our program, to have an understanding of who's playing. I think I'm really big on that sense of family, that sense of connection, not just with our current players, but our past generation as well. The craziest idea I have, and I need to get better, is I was like, how can I, connect with these guys on a non-basketball level since I'm not seeing them? I bought an Xbox, and I was like, all these kids want to play, NBA 2K and Call of Duty. So a couple times at night, I just text a few. I'm like, hey, you want to play? And we put on the headsets, and it allows them to kick my butt and talk a little smack to me. And yeah, I'm horrible, but it's been fun. So trying a little bit of everything, but I'm looking forward to seeing the guys in person.
That's really cool how creative you're being and stepping outside your comfort zone, getting on the Xbox. Really awesome how you're involving the parents in the calls and also the former players. So definitely something that we can all learn from there. Lots of things to do the first 30 days on the job. You mentioned some of those things that you've done through Zoom. Anything else on your to-do list right now you're trying to cross off?
I mean, I have a to-do list that's 10 pages long right now. We could talk for hours on that. It's never ending, as you guys know.
Yeah. No, it is never ending. Just cross off as many things as you can each day, wake up the next day and do it again. I recently interviewed for a new coaching position as well, and I'd reached out to you for some advice, knowing that you had just gone through this process yourself. And your biggest advice was to simply be you and don't be someone you're not. And you also talked about commanding the room, showing the interview committee how to be a CEO of your organization. Could you talk a little bit more about the interview process?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of going back to the advice that I gave you is that, it's important to be you and not someone you're not, because at the end of the day, like, not every job is right for you, and you're not right for every job. So I think that the only way if it's going to work is if stays true to yourself. Don't try to spin it or try to do anything too off the wall to trick anybody. Be yourself. You already got the interview. That's half the battle is get the interview. That's hard enough as it is in this business. But the other aspect is owning the room, commanding the room. Showing that you're the CEO. I mean, as a head coach, as you guys know, you have to own the room on a daily basis. With your team. So I think back to interviews I had earlier in my career that maybe where I didn't get a head coaching job or something. Looking back, I think that I might have spent too much time trying to talk about X's and O's, or too much time talking about spinning like how my recruiting is going to take our team to the next level. I mean, at the end of the day, like at the college level, you wouldn't even be getting the interview if the people thought there were concerns about your coaching or recruiting. At the high school level, you wouldn't be getting an interview if people thought there was concerns about your coaching, your X's and O's, or how you took care of kids. Because I mean, I understand that's such a big deal. I mean, it's important at the college level, but they're even younger at your age. So you want to be getting the interview of that. So you don't need to sell those people on that. They're going to ask some questions, and you need to be able to be quick on your feet and answer to show that you're sharp and that you're an intelligent person. But there's no one in the room when you interview, unless your athletic director is a former head coach, that knows more about basketball than you already. So it's not like you got to fool anybody. You know what I mean? Just answer the questions. At the end of the day, it's how can you lead an organization? How can you be a leader in men? How can you command the room? Big picture, can you plan? Can you look ahead? Can you be a problem solver, a problem fixer? Can you get a group of people to follow you? That's at the end of the day what you're looking for, because you're also going to have a lot of assistants that are qualified coaches as well. But at the end of the day, you are the CEO. The basketball team is your organization. So that's kind of what I think I took with me going into interviews later in my career, and obviously help with this current one, and I was able to get the job that ultimately that I always wanted. And it's funny how things work out. You're from Evansville and you're back. Like I said, you're not right for every job, and every job's not right for you. You've probably gone after some jobs that you thought you really wanted at the time, but you want to be back home if you would have gotten those. And for me, I missed out on a couple that in my career that really hurt at the time, but I want to be where I'm at right now, and there's nowhere else I'd rather be. And then also, I got a couple that ultimately I decided weren't right for me, and heck, I'm glad I did. I made that decision, because I probably want to be where I'm at now too. So I think knowing what fits you and who you fit is also important.
That's some powerful stuff, and you're obviously in the right spot and already impacting people in a positive way. And hearing people talk about you taking over the program, the one consistent word that keeps popping up is passionate. You're a basketball junkie, and we can already tell by that on this call. And how are you going to make sure that this attitude is contagious to your program?
I, you know, I like to think that if you're in my program, it's naturally going to happen, just because my thing is you lead by example. And if I bring it every day, I don't think anyone's going to have a choice but to, ultimately match my energy levels at some point. So that's what I said, that I've always been a lead by example guy. And then in terms of, my staff, guys that I've recruited, try to surround myself by people who have the same mentality and outlook on life and how to attack on a daily basis. And also too, the fortunate thing for me is I'm entering a program that ultimately I'm very familiar with, having played there for 4 years, coached there for 6. And I was only gone for 2 years. So 10 of the last 12 years been involved with. They had the returners in my program, part of the reason I am who I am is because I came from that program. So a lot of the returners in the program have those same characteristics and traits and outlooks too. So I think it's just, it's a happy marriage, but at the end of the day, I understand being the head coach, it starts and ends with me, and I need to bring it every day, but that's just kind of what I do and how I go about everything. It's with me, it's 100 miles an hour or 0 miles per hour. If I'm doing it, I'm going all the way. So I go hard and I rest hard. There's no gray area with me, completely black and white. So that's kind of how I hope, to rub off on my team as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And in order to share that passion, it starts by putting together an outstanding staff, which you've done. We at Feel for the Game, we know Mike Burris very well, who's the head coach at Olney Central Junior College for many years, and you've added him to your staff. Mike's one of the hardest working guys in the business, and definitely going to be an asset for you, Indy. What are some things that you've done with your staff this quarantine to help brainstorm about the upcoming season?
Well, Mike, I'm so blessed that he's joined our staff, obviously with the success he's had, and he's been a head coach. I wanted somebody that had, more experience than me, and someone that everything that I'm doing right now or going to do, Mike's already done. And, I've gotten to know Mike really well, and he's a really quality person on top of that. So, I'm so fortunate to have him, as my right-hand man. He's been awesome. He's hit the ground running. Like I trust him so much, like to the point where, I'm getting overloaded with so much right now to where I can just like, hey, Mike, you got this, or you got that. And he just takes care of it because it's stuff he's already done. And so it's very, very fortunate, I'm very, very fortunate. And our program, our players have really, gotten to really know Mike and enjoy him as well. My graduate assistant, Parker Chitty, is an Indiana guy. His dad, Brent Chitty, is Columbus East head coach, and Parker had a really good career at Bellarmine. Still working on that second assistant. Should be here pretty shortly, but really excited about the couple guys that I'm talking to for that spot. I think we got some good candidates. But right now, to be honest with you, there's so much administrative work right now in terms of things we have to get done just to put us in a position to have success on the basketball floor, and getting guys to campus. And that's a big thing about college is like, you got, getting them in classes, admissions, getting their scholarship, their scholarships paid. You got to getting them in housing, talk about move-in dates, physicals, the COVID restrictions at each university. Then you got, we're planning out, travel, for the year, ordering gear, and getting the job late, it's a little different. And, doing all of this with people that I haven't seen any of these guys in person. I've never, the only one I've met in person, well, I guess a couple of the returners I had met in person at a few alumni events last year. And, I recruited Jesse Bingham out of high school before I left for Fort Wayne, and Jalen Chin as well. But, most of the returners and, all the newcomers, I haven't met him in person, and seen them in person. So there's just so much other stuff that, Mike and I have talked about basketball, and I know what I want to do, and he'll be a great resource as well. But we probably won't start talking X's and O's or the nitty gritty of that until we get, in person here shortly, because there's just so much administrative stuff that goes along with the job that if you don't take care of that, you don't even give yourself a chance with basketball. and that's when it comes to being the CEO of an organization, is understanding, when's the right time to do what. Everybody wants to focus on this, but there's things you got to do to get everything in place. That way, things run smooth and seamlessly. But the nice thing about Mike is that he understands all that. He's done all that. And, he's all in, and anything that I've needed from him, he's done at a tremendous level for me.
You've definitely put together an awesome staff. Mike Burris, Indiana high school guy, played at Eastern Green, and Parker Chitty playing at Columbus East, and the son of Brent Chitty. So some Indiana high school basketball junkies. And I like how you said earlier, and a quote that I've always learned from is, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, or who have been exposed to things that maybe we haven't. So definitely nice to hear that. And probably one of the next things on your to-do list is recruiting. I know you've already started that process. During the quarantine has to be challenging, but how have you and Mike and your staff been able to adapt, and what are some things you've done during this time to recruit players?
Well, to be completely honest with you, we only returned 6 guys from last year. So, after transfers and stuff occurred. So I really like my returners, but obviously you can't play with 6 players. So we had to get to 15, or 15. And then we had a 7th that had committed to the previous staff that remained committed to us. And so we really had 7. And then we had to go get 8 guys right away. And part of that was, I knew we needed players right away. So I really didn't hire Mike until midway through that process, because I felt like the most important thing was to hit the ground running and get players. So I kind of functioned like an assistant coach would for, the initial part of, my tenure's, first few weeks as head coach. And we signed 8 guys in 8 weeks. So we really got to work, and it was a lot, So I've actually, now that we've signed that first class, and there was a lot of guys, and like I said, I'm really excited about them. But what I've done is I've kind of taken a step back from the recruiting right now, because I need to focus on some bigger picture stuff, and I want to worry about my team. My guys are the most important thing to me right now. The 15 guys on our roster next year, this year. The next year is going to take care of itself. Don't get me wrong, recruiting is very, very important, and we're going to, be very aggressive in the recruiting process. But for the last, I guess I signed our last player on June 15th, so it hasn't been a month yet. So right now, through the end of July, I'm really, really focused on our current roster, continuing to build those relationships. We've been doing. We've given them what they need for lifting, for conditioning, for nutrition, for basketball workouts. So really focus on the development of our own team so we can have a successful year this year. And as that goes on, my assistants have really been, for the last 3 weeks, focusing on the 2021 and 2022 classes. So we are recruiting, but me personally, I'm taking a step back through the end of July, and then I'll get more aggressive within August. But as a staff, we will always be very aggressive in the recruiting process. Big part of that, especially to get back to your question, with the current state of things, is the evaluation of film. I think people need to know that right now it's important to provide both highlights and full game. I think highlights is a good way to, let a coach know if he's really interested in a full game or not. Because I'll be honest, like if you watch a highlight tape and you're not interested, you're not even going to get to the full game. But don't just think that, we're going to recruit you off a highlight tape either, because, it's not that hard to make a highlight tape, look awesome, because at the end of the day, it's highlights. So I think providing, a highlight tape as well as your best 2 to 3 games initially is a good way to go in terms of if you're trying to get recruited. Because I think that's a good way for us to understand, at least the way me and Mike evaluate after watching a highlight in 2 or 3 full games after that, if, you're going to be a fit for, our program and what we're looking for. And then building a list and, really getting to know everybody too, in terms of, character is going to be a real key component in our program. And, we want to get to know everybody involved in your circle. We want to get to know your, your parents, your high school coach, your AAU coach. If you have a trainer, get to know him. If there's any other influences in your life, an uncle or something like that, we want to know the whole circle and really feel comfortable with everybody. because, we kind of run a family atmosphere at the University of Indianapolis. So we got to get an idea of where you come from, what you're really all about. And lastly, recruits need to provide academic information because, in terms of, at least at the small college level, D2, D3, and the IA, good grades can help enhance your scholarship package. And it will be more enticing to a program like us, that if you're a high level student too, and then, I remember when I was at Division I level at Purdue Fort Wayne, that was always kind of like a tiebreaker for us, even though you're doing fulls or nothing all athletic up there. If we're recruiting two kids and we really don't know which way to go and they both want to come, well, we're always going to side with the better student, so because I think that they prove that they're going to be less maintenance off the floor, probably, higher, at least in the books, higher IQ, all those type of things. So as parents and as, kids that want to be recruited, like I said, don't just give highlight tapes, don't just give full games, give both. Make sure you're accessible to the phone, because coaches, especially us, are going to want to talk to everybody in your circle. Make sure you provide academic information, not just GPA, but test score, class rank, all that kind of stuff. And then, for us, because we are going to be able to get out here at some point soon, but since we're not going to be able to get out as much, for what we'll look for is the concrete measurable numbers. And what I mean by that is, okay, 3-point percentage, that's going to be a big number. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what do you shoot from three? GPA, that's a measurable number. Wins and losses, are you on a winning program? Like, are you a winner? That's a measurable number. And that's just giving you I don't want to know that, hey, you had 32 points against, a team that, and then not tell me who you played and that team was 5-25. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know big picture, quantitative statistics, good sample size. What are your measurable numbers? Because that'll allow us to make educated decisions on top of what we see on film. What's your GPA? What do you shoot from three? What was your team's wins and loss record? Those are to be some bigger level things that we'll look for as a program, in addition to just watching tape and thinking like, okay, yeah, that kid could fit in here, or talking to a kid and like, hey, I really like his personality. When it comes down to decision time, you can't give 40 kids scholarships. So we're going to need to look at some of those measurable numbers.
Love that approach you're taking, and that advice is very helpful to us high school coaches and also to our athletes and parents. To piggyback off of this and the recruiting, what are some specific things that you and your staff are looking for in a recruit? I mean, obviously you want a nice skill set, but maybe let's dive into the intangibles. What are some characteristics that you're looking for to play at the University of Indianapolis?
Tough, talented, driven, humble. Those are four characteristics I look at. Now, how tough you are, obviously talent, and that's what we see on film, and what your skill set is and that kind of stuff. How athletic you are, how tall you are. Driven, like how are you a gym rat? Are you always in there working? What are the people around you saying? Because that's how you really find that out. If I call your high school coach, what's he really going to tell me? And then, being humble, realizing that you're part of something bigger than yourself, and are you about yourself, or are you about the team, and all that kind of stuff? And are you going to be a good teammate? I think those are attributes that we'll always look for. And then talk about some basketball. I mean, that's just big picture personality traits. We always talked about some basketball tiebreakers, in terms of the measurable numbers that we're looking for in the recruiting process, like, GPA, wins and losses, 3-point percentage. Those would be some basketball tiebreakers, along with toughness. Really, like I always talk to Mike about some kids that we were recruiting earlier in this process for this class. In addition to finding out those characteristics, the tough, talented, driven, humble that I mentioned earlier, when we start talking about basketball, stuff that kept coming up is he a winner? Okay, like, this team win a championship? What was his wins and losses? How's he shooting? What's his percentage from three, but what's his volume? I really don't care if you shoot 50%, but you went 3 of 6 on the year. I want I'd rather have the obviously I'd rather have the 35% 3-point shooter that shot 93s on the season, so, how's he shoot it? And you test that by percentage and by volume, and then, talk about toughness, that's what you really tell by watching film and then asking people around him, like, is he tough? And then, like I said, GPA is obviously a big thing too. Like I want kids, I want student athletes. I want kids that, care about the classroom, so all those things will be things we look for.
Those are things that start from the top, those 4 characteristics. And I'm sure you take those things very seriously. And we talked earlier about you want to spread that passion to your program. And there's no doubt you're already starting to do that at the University of Indianapolis. Coaches on here today, any questions for Coach Corsaro?
Yeah, Coach, I got a couple questions if you don't mind.
Yeah.
First is about hiring a staff. I'm in the process now where I've got to hire a few assistant coaches myself, and obviously you're in that position and you've been in that position over the last few months. And being self-aware, I'm realizing that maybe I'm not the best hirer, because when I listen to guys talk, I mean, shit, it all sounds good. You know what I mean? And it's like their highlight tape.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you probably see that in the coveted position of coaching in college. So how do you discern between candidates, and what are some things that you might look for, or what kind of research do you look for, and able to truly tell you've got somebody that's right for your program?
Let me ask you this. Are you hiring one assistant or multiple right now? Multiple?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do the same thing. So what I would advise is okay, like on a piece of paper, the same characteristics I look for in players, by the way, in terms of tough, talented, driven, humble, I think you can apply to the coaching staff. And I did that when I was looking for my staff. But also, I list out each position and what you're looking for in each position. Okay, like this position I need this position I need that. And ultimately, I'd try to hire somebody with as much or more experience than you. That's what I did, and I think that's important, at least as much experience, at the very minimum, in terms of at least one of your positions. And then, the other one, if you have multiple, I kind of like the idea of getting a younger, greener guy that's just hungry and going to grind and kind of do whatever, too, the young, energetic, so I'd kind of, if you're having 2, I'd have one up here with the experience as much or more in you. And then if you have, a younger, greener guy down here. And if you have multiple in that, then maybe find someone in the middle, and that's kind of what I'm doing. Because, I have that third guy too. And that third guy is going to be that I'm talking about, that second assistant is going to kind of be in between those 2. But write down the characteristics you're looking for in each position, on top of, the tough, talented, dribble, humble, tough, on top of the experience levels. And then hire that one you got to have first. Okay. And like I said, you have your own criteria. I can't tell you what to look for. You got to come with that, but hire that one first and then reevaluate, because, no one's perfect. So even who you hire, those characteristics that you listed for that first part, reevaluate, where does he fit those characteristics, where doesn't he? Because then you might have to move maybe that characteristic that you wanted them to have, but he might not. You might have to move it and say, okay, well, I better have that fit in these other 2 spots, because he might not. Or what, he actually has one of these characteristics that I didn't have listed in his spot, but it fits the other 2 spots. So maybe these other candidates don't have to have that, so constantly reevaluate, and don't hire everybody at once. Do one at a time, because it's an ever-changing, evolving puzzle to what you're trying to do and what your needs are.
Man, that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate it. Another question more about your recruiting style, or maybe your plan, and maybe you don't have to get into specifics if you're not comfortable about what it is that you guys are doing, but just in general, are you competing against, the D1s of the world? Are you kind of, because everybody wants their pie in the sky guys, or, obviously with Coach Burris, is it more kind of landing some JUCO kids, or 4-year, kind of, more academic, or what is it, I guess, your recruiting plan for UIndy?
We're going to recruit every level, high school, junior college, Division I transfers, even international. We're going to recruit every level. but we always start in our backyard and branch out. We're always going to start in Indiana. Then we're going to branch out to the 4 surrounding states. I feel like we can find 80 to 90%. I'm talking about high school, JUCO, and Division I transfer. I really feel like we can find 80% of what we need there, but there's going to be that 20% that you might not be able to get. And that's where you branch out maybe to the high school and junior colleges outside that area, outside of our recruiting base. I'd call our recruiting base Indiana's our backyard. Our recruiting base is Indiana and the 4 surrounding states. And we'll branch out after that, because at the end of the day, we want the most talented student athletes that we can bring to the University of Indianapolis. And we'll branch out from there. And, whether that's going to, we got a junior college kid out of Texas this year. We got a Division I transfer that's from Texas that was at Bryant. We got a high school kid from Germany this year, so we'll branch out. And when I got the job, Indiana's such a heavily recruited state. This junior college region 24, with Vincennes and John Logan and Olney is a heavily recruited junior college area. It wasn't like there was a lot of available prospects. We had to branch out pretty early in the process this year. In certain years, we're going to have to branch out earlier than later, and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to recruit every level. And I want people to know, just because you recruit a junior college prospect, that doesn't mean it's less academic than a high school kid. The junior college players that we got this year, Josiah Tynes from Santa Fe, he's a good student. And then Drayvon Claiborne had over a 3.0, at Navarro. He had a very, very good academic career there. So sometimes kids go junior college for other reasons too. So like I said, we will recruit our backyard, we will recruit inside out, but we will recruit as far out as we have to get the players we need, and we will recruit every level.
And then to that point, and especially with me being in Fort Wayne, Heath being in Evansville, Ryan in South Bend, maybe we can't necessarily recruit ourselves, but we can make our programs attractive and people want to come to our program. And I think that's something that we all would want. We would want people to be a part of our program, or want people to want to be a part of our program. So what are some things that you found or that you're looking for? And obviously you've got a lot of experience with UIndy. That's your competitive advantage, or what are some things that you think about as a niche for drawing kids to UIndy?
Well, I think in terms of what we offer, and kind of going back to, what you mentioned earlier, we'll recruit against anybody. We'll recruit against Division IIs. We'll recruit against low major Division Is. And, our feel is, in terms of what we can offer, we offer the total experience. Basketball, the Great Lakes Valley Conference, in my opinion, is the best Division II league in the country. You talk about the success we've had, the success Southern Indiana's had. Bellarmine's leaving, but the success they've had. You got Jury's won a national title. Lewis is a great program. McKendree's really on the rise. Truman State. You got some really good basketball. So we feel like we offer the best Division II basketball in the country, and just like any level, I tell people, the top NAIAs are going to come and compete against the bottom D2s. Well, the top D2s are going to go compete against low D1s, and I've lived 2 years at Division I level. I've lived both sides. So I'll tell you, I feel like what we can offer is, we can say, we think we're going to give you the opportunity to win 20 plus games and compete for a national title. Ultimately, what's going to be more important to you, doing that or, going, 500, at a place. So, that when we recruit a kid going to a higher level, but then also, we'll recruit against D2s, we're recruiting against an IS. I don't care who we recruit against. I don't base who we recruit off who else is recruiting them. I want to recruit kids I think are right for us. If they happen to be recruited by another Division III school, we're going to compete against them. If they happen to be recruited against an AI or D2, we're going to recruit against them. And if they happen to be recruited against Division I, we're going to recruit against them. And, but ultimately our evaluation is going to determine whether we think they're right for us, not who else is recruiting them. I'm not into that. But going back to what we offer, I think, we offer the total experience. We're going to give you the opportunity to play in a great league at a high level. We're going to give you the opportunity to compete for championships at the conference and national level. We're going to, we really provide great facilities, the way we travel. So all the basketball stuff, it really doesn't get much better, unless, you're going to like, the Big Ten. So like, I feel like, what we offer from a basketball standpoint speaks for itself. But then the student athlete, when I say student athlete, that really values the other components of college, well, we're a private school, offer a high level education. And it's great degree. Being right in Indianapolis with all the internship accessibilities, and we are the University of Indianapolis. Every big time company in our city, usually has a networking ties to our university. So the job placement, the internship opportunities, who you're going to be exposed to. As you guys know, unfortunately, life's more about who you know than what you know. And so the people you're going to be exposed to while here, I think can be very beneficial. Beautiful campus, great campus life. And I'll be honest with you, it's been 13 years since I first stepped on campus at University of Indianapolis at 18 years old. So it's changed a lot. It's a beautiful campus, and it's a great place to live. You really get a college feel. And then, you're in the city, you're not downtown, you're in the suburbs, which I kind of like because you have your separation, you have your campus life, but then you have all the amenities of being in Indianapolis. And everybody knows how great of a city Indianapolis is. So in terms of the academic component, the athletic component, and the social component, it's pretty tough to beat, So I think the people that really want the total aspect of the college experience as a student athlete, I think we're a great place for it. I'm biased, obviously, but I have lived it. And like I said, I never had a dull moment. Got a great degree, competed at high level. So it was an awesome experience for me. And everybody that's come through our program when I was an assistant all comes back and says the same thing. Like, man, there's nowhere else I would rather go. It was a great place.
That's awesome. And those are the questions I have. So appreciate you, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I wish we still had some eligibility, because it sounds like it would be. Jeremy and I used to hoop a little bit back in Bloomington, but I think we're out of our prime. Coach Varga, do you have any questions?
We need noon ball players. Like, if you guys want to come down and get a run in one afternoon,
Heck yeah, I'm in for that. Yeah. Let me shoot.
You go 3-point line to 3-point line, huh?
That's been Jeremy his whole career, but he can fill it up. Coach Varga, you have any questions for Coach?
Yeah, kind of going off of what Jeremy said. So how do you evaluate your staff throughout the year?
Well, I haven't had a chance to do that yet. So
I know that.
So to be honest with you, like that's something as a head coach that I kind of have a list of that never-ending to-do list, and that's actually something that I was kind of looking through my notes yesterday, is kind of developing a monthly or bi-monthly evaluation process, just to kind of get an idea of where we're at. And that's something that's going to be part of my growth as CEO of our organization. So what I will take is, I've worked for two great bosses, Stan Gerard and John Kaufman. They both had lots of success. I've learned so much from both of them, and they both had their own ways of evaluating. So I know how I was evaluated as an assistant, and I know what I liked about each of their evaluation processes, and I know what I didn't like about each of them. So kind of pulling from that will kind of help me in the direction I decide to go.
Anything else, Coach Varga?
Sorry, my son's going crazy. He's looking for a dog. No, I don't have anything else on the moment. You hear it. What happened to the dog?
I think your son has some questions there.
Coach, if you can find this dog that he's talking about, that'd be great.
Yeah, I got nothing for you. I apologize. It sounds like you got a busy household this morning, it looks like.
And coaches both know I'm in daddy daycare, so we're getting ready to start daycare back up next week, at least twice a day. That's when I'm going to come down to Fort Wayne and be in Jeremy's pool and be an assistant for a while.
You're in.
As long as he doesn't fire me for that day, I'll be good.
Everybody's hired.
I sound pretty good in person, so it's good. He'll hire me. So, no, I don't have anything. I wish you the best of luck, Coach, and I look forward to maybe coming down and going to a practice or a game or something.
Absolutely. You know, you guys, but anybody that watches this video or is on the call, like all our practices are open. You know, there's nothing's closed. Everybody's welcome. Please come down. I want people around our program. So please do. You know, anytime you need anything, you know, my email's on our website. Just email me. And like I said, we're a very accessible group. So please come around.
Tough, talented, driven, humble. That's something that we'll remember. Coach, we thank you for sharing that. It's something that you're bringing to the University of Indianapolis. You brought as a player. Now you're bringing it back as a head coach. We're looking forward to working with you. And I know Jeremy, Ryan, and I are hoping that we can send you some players in the future. We're definitely looking forward to following you in the Greyhounds, and we wish you the best of luck.
Guys, thanks a lot for having me today. I appreciate it.